what I want, with what I love to do. I gotta nurture and produce, but I can't take my mind off you. Gotta create and raise my son. How do I bring you in? You just don't know about it. I gotta push the sound. I won't forget about you. Let's get around it. Started off with a little music, right? So, it's Friday. I'm off work and gotta go to no job on Friday today. 3-day weekend. It's great. I just took my son to school. He's in kindergarten. I've only got to do that twice so far. So, take him to school and he rides the bus home. I'm actually going to go have lunch with him today, so that's cool. I'm excited about that. Let's talk about music, though. In music news, very sadly, Brent Hines from Mastodon passed away yesterday in a motorcycle crash. It was somebody else's fault, apparently, and hit him on his Harley. Great guitar player, high gain, killer riffs and licks. And I remember when Mastodon, like the first time I heard of Mastodon, it was probably the late 90s, maybe early 2000s. And one thing that stood out definitely was the drumming, but those were killer songs. It was kind of newer, not the new metal thing. It was different than that, which was good. This is Chester. He wanted to be on the stream, I guess. So today, what I've got going on, I'm always trying to get some music done. I've got a song nearly ready. All of the guitars, bass, some percussion is on it. I have to put drums on today. So after I get done with the stream, I'm going to reconfigure some stuff in the studio. And I was working on it yesterday. If you saw any of yesterday's live stream, we were putting up some mics, moving some mics around. The Royer specifically for overhead, one of the overheads. This mic's going to be an overhead, and we're going to track drums today. I thought I would let you hear some of this song because I'm really digging it. It's the way I like to work. I like to usually start out with a guitar riff most of the time, and it's good to switch this up too. I do that a lot. I'll start with like a killer bass part first sometimes. I usually don't start with drums first because for me it's hard to just play a groove and hear where it's going if I don't have guitars to guide me or a vocal to guide me. So I know the way a lot of people used to work in big studios back in the day was to take weeks and do the drum tracks to get a big drum sound. I think probably a lot of people don't work that way now. I think a lot of guitar players probably make loops and play guitar over loops and come up with songs like that. But when I'm tracking real drums like I do here, no sample replacement, no sample augmentation, I like to have the guitar parts down. And then while I'm always recording always mixing as I'm recording. So by the time I'm ready for like a rough mix for that drums to go on, it's usually sounding pretty good. Or I get it there if it's not, sometimes some things have to be evened out. Do some panning things. Panning makes, it's huge with mixing. Panning's great. You don't realize how just moving things around, how much moving things around in the stereo image can make your song feel different, hit different, sound different. So I like to do a lot with panning. I even sometimes, like with synth parts, I'll put one of those auto panners on where it's like going around your head. That's a cool little little thing for the music. But let's listen. I wanted to play some of this because it's a little bit different for me. It's a little bit heavier. It's a lot heavier, actually. Some of the stuff, like the one that I was playing when the stream started, it's a lot more chill of a vibe than this. This has got some drop tune guitars. I actually made a YouTube video while I was recording this song about this Royer mic because the low end I was getting off the guitar cabinets. It was the first time I put up the Royer mic on my 4x12 Mesa cab. It just blew me away. Let's play a little bit of that just because, because we can. Usually I don't like to preview my projects, my music before they come out, but we're doing this streaming thing and that's what I'm getting ready to do today, so let's listen to it. We might not listen to the whole thing, we'll just listen to a couple sections of it so you can hear what's going on. It's good for me to hear it too as many times as possible because I want to know where it's going when I sit down at the drums to play, right? So the more times I hear it, and I'm always working out parts in my head. It doesn't have a name yet. Usually the name of the track comes when the lyrics start being written, and for this one they haven't yet. So you can hear there, it's got, what that is a guitar right down the middle. It's a mono guitar part. And then I have another guitar just hitting like triads and doing little accent things on the left side. Then there's a synth underneath. Cabasa, if you don't know what cabasa is, this is cabasa. I love that. Just little percussion things. Really, like, it's like the difference in between good and great sometimes, percussion, and I have some percussion stuff around here, and you can, make your own percussion. If you have drumsticks, you can find things to make sounds. These little egg shakers, these are good, anything you can find to accentuate the beat, use percussion. Hand claps, snaps, all that, snapping your fingers, all of that adds a dimension that you're not going to get anywhere else. And I don't like to use samples to do it. I like to actually play the stuff in. Sometimes if I have if I'm hitting the cabasa and the beads go a weird way or something and it sounds funny, I'll replace that one note with another one from like a sample earlier in the track, but that's as much as I do with samples on that. I like, for me, making music is about making it, not taking other music samples and doing it that way. That's why I buy the microphones, have the drums, have the guitars, have the instruments and the mics. I want to make the music, and I'm not going to say it's not as creative or anything to do it the other way, but if you have those tools at your disposal, why would you depend on somebody else's sounds? Get your own sounds. It's something I'm pretty adamant about with my recordings. And if I play drums today and it doesn't later, like say I think I have the take and later on it doesn't work out right, I'm not going to go putting samples in to get the sound right. I'm going to replay it. I'd just rather do it that way. It's really easier for me to do it that way than to go through and trigger samples and do things that way. Subscribe, leave a comment. Tell me how you work in your studio. Today's podcast, I wanted to talk about all the different hats we have to wear as artists, musicians, and there's a lot we have to do. From just learning how to engineer and make the music and get it out in the world, to promoting it and trying to be seen or heard, if that matters to you. It's a lot. Used to be everything was compartmentalized. There was A&R guys at record labels. There was promotion. Touring's a whole different thing. And it's different than it used to be. It's hard to make money nowadays as a musician, so you have to really be thinking about how you're going to get your stuff heard. And, in my case, I'm just trying to get the stuff out there so people can hear it in a way that looks legit. You don't want to try and be competitive and your shit isn't on point and as good as the stuff you're watching, right? So there's a lot to think about. Everything from album covers to like branding. All of this is important, and YouTube's a good way to just make sure that you're trying to do something, right? So if you're on YouTube, there's a lot of ways you can link accounts, put things together in a way so people can see what you're doing. If you're on Instagram, a lot of times I'll put out music, and on Instagram I'll do like $20 worth of paid promotion, just so I know that song is going to get 1,000 looks at least. And usually those get some shares. I don't put much money into the promotion because I feel like the music should do good on its own without a lot of that. But the algorithms work in a way where they silo people. They put you in a corner, and it's very hard to break out of that. So if you're making good music, that's really what your focus needs to be on first and foremost, and you need to do the promotion and things as well, but you can't be like brokenhearted when it doesn't work out the way you want it to work out, because it's a long process. I don't know. It's very tricky to be able to do all these things. Like, I was mixing music probably for 2.5 years before I got something that got to the point where I thought I could make it. In every project, I thought I could make it sound like a record, and I knew what the music needed, and I could do it in a way that was efficient. And sometimes, I'll mix for 2 weeks on a song. This one, let's listen to some more of this. This is just the rough mix still. Let's listen. I'm going to pick up back where we left off. This is what I'm tracking drums to today. As soon as I get off the stream, we're going to track drums. I would track drums on the live stream, but it's a lot of mics, and I'm trying to go down to 2 channels to get that. You can only stream to a stereo channel, which is 2 channels left and right, and it's really hard with a limited amount of gear to filter all those mics down to just a 2-channel bus and get it to sound right on YouTube. Plus there's things like latency with drums if I have any plugins on, so to make it sound good, I wouldn't be able to put the stuff out. You would have to listen to it on playback anyway. So maybe on down the line we'll work out a system where I can get the drums sounding good, but it really involves 2 computers if you're going to do that, because you have to delay the drums in such a way where it's lining up with the music and hitting the live stream a little bit before, the way I figure, or maybe get a Zoom recorder and do it that way, but that's not going to be the audio I want. So let's listen to some more of this. This is just guitars, bass, percussion, and synthesizer. It's getting drums later today and vocals soon. That's all we're gonna listen to for now. I don't like to give away all my music before it's ready. I really don't like doing that much. But I'm on the stream. It's what I'm doing today. I was really, I was listening to the mix because I always mix and take it to the car because a lot of times it sounds different than it does on my monitors. I know pretty well how to account for those changes, like what I'm hearing in the monitors. If it sounds a little light in the low end or a little heavy in the low end, I know how to adjust for that, and I know what it's probably going to sound like in the car just because I've mixed so much stuff on my monitors. I know what they sound like and what they do. I would like to get probably some bigger monitors soon. Not, this room isn't huge, but I like having music playing a lot anyway, so I feel like bigger monitors would give me better bass response. Right now, my monitors, like, I've got a lot of great gear here. The monitors are just KRK Rocket 5s, not huge, but they're good for mixing quietly. I mix pretty quietly most of the time. I'll crank it up a little bit, but my first pair of KRKs, I blew both speakers, right? And they sent me new ones out, which was very cool because I had warranty. But I wasn't pushing them very hard. I didn't think, but you get into mixing and crank them up, and the Rocket Fives might blow on you if you crank them up. So just be aware of that, and it's a good thing because it keeps you at a good listening level when you're mixing. So there's other things to think about with wearing all these hats, right? Because if you're doing YouTube and things like that, Instagram shorts, whatever, people want a personal connection more than just to hear what you're doing musically. If people get that personal connection, they're more invested in what you're doing, and they can, they can relate with the human side of you. Even people that don't play music, don't know, how anything about music theory or anything like that, they can still, be a loyal fan if they get a personal connection with you or if they dig your music. But a lot of times now with the way social media is set up, if you can be personable and people feel like they know you, that's good. It automatically gives your music a little bit of a head start because the people know a little bit about your life, and they hopefully know the music's coming from a real place and what they're hearing is genuine. I've just got a few notes because there's a lot of hats we have to wear, and I wanted to make a list so I didn't forget some of these things. So I've got promotion on here. Promotion to me is putting your stuff everywhere. I don't TikTok. I just haven't done it. It's like another thing, and I've got my hands full with YouTube mainly, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and it's TikTok's probably where people should be, because right now it's where it's popping. But musicians, I feel like, are on Instagram a lot. They look on Instagram for new music a lot. I occasionally will do those paid promotions on my music just to get it out there, like the first week where I know some people are at least hearing it. I feel like that's giving it a little bit of a fair shake, because you could write, Bohemian Rhapsody nowadays and nobody ever hear it really, or you could write your Sgt. Pepper album and nobody ever hear it just because of the way we're all siloed and put in these compartments with the algorithm. So it's, like I said, it's very hard to break out of that. Just know that it's very hard to get any views. I've done these live streams and there's been some people watching, but usually not live. I think I had one person on live here just a minute ago, and when I started playing the music, they dipped out, So what you do need to do is take advantage of those times when you are low on views, or you are first getting started, and work out all your problems that way. Because like I'm taking these live streams and I'm getting my amp sounds right in the room, trying to um, um, I'm trying to work out all the kinks with the streaming while the views are low. So if something does happen where they start getting more views, then the audio, the visuals are all on point. So you can use it all as a like training to get things where you want to be, make everything look more professional, sound more professional. And there's a process to that when you're starting to record and mix music as well too. It's very good to have people to bounce your stuff off of, because it's extremely easy. It's like almost impossible not to get so deep in the music while you're mixing, recording, and you're hearing it so many times in your headphones and on your monitors. It's nearly impossible to keep your perspective on it in a good place. And so you hear it so many times and you lose sight of the goal, of like, I was wanting my bass to sound like this, and am I even there? A lot of times you can't even judge where your music's at when you're so far in it, especially when you're first starting out. So it's always good to have people to bounce your ideas off of, people to listen to your music mainly. You want people listening to your music. Hold on. Trying to get my cat to quit making noise. Chester. But he wants to be noticed. He's a kitten, so he needs that baby attention, I guess. Chester. Anyway, so album covers is another thing you need to be thinking about. I've done a couple videos about this, and people really appreciated this information, because I think people aren't even thinking about that when they're doing music a lot of times. They just want to get their music out. Alright. Let me solve this problem real quick, because he's going to keep hitting these wires until it drives me nuts. Album covers, big deal. You want the album covers to be a perfect square, 1-to-1 aspect ratio. There goes my camera. 1-to-1 aspect ratio. Just get you some cool art. If you're making music and making videos, shorts, making things for YouTube, you've probably always got the camera running. If you don't, get the camera always running, because you're going to get some stuff in there that you can use, that you want to use, and you'll have it. Don't delete stuff, You can always repurpose things for thumbnails, album covers. You want the art to be cool, because a lot of times people are very visual, and sometimes the album cover will be what draws them in to your music. So think about that. You have to have that for DistroKid, probably all of the streaming platforms. You do need album cover. So keep that in mind. And it's, branding is another thing. I don't have like a watermark logo on the channel or anything like that. I did some branding logos when I first started. I made some. I never really implemented them. It was more time when I was new in the editing process. Now I could do it very quickly, but when I was new, it's like, this is just one more thing. I'm just trying to get my stuff out there. If the channel grows, maybe we'll start doing some of that branding, watermarks, things on the videos. I think it's essential when you have a bigger following, and there's no reason not to start on it early. So keep branding in mind. There's even like websites that will help you, like apps that will help you get your brand, where you can get a logo and they'll design it for you. Free ones. AI does all this shit now, so it's like easy as hell to do it. then you just download it and you have it to put anywhere you want to put your brand. Um, Threads is a new thing, newer thing, one of the newer things, and I think it's important because it's going back to that personal connection. Um, you know, a lot of times people will post on Threads like political views and shit that they won't say on YouTube, which I like that. I think we should be more vocal about where we're at politically, especially these days. Um, and it gives you that personal connection. You can talk about anything on Threads, and it's usually not going to be just promoting your music, even though I'll put my streams up on there, and even songs I'll put up there. Um, uh, but try and be honest. Just like you were talking to a friend or something on your Threads. Put that shit out there. Anything that people can connect with, man, is gonna give you a little bit of a boost on your music as well. I've heard people say, if you get 1,000 true fans, that can sustain you for your whole career. And I don't know if that's true. It sounds good, and it seems like it could be true. You get 1,000 true fans that really want to support you. Put money in your tip jar. Put, buy your stuff. Buy your, pay for the streaming and buy physical copies of your records. That would be a good place to be. Oh, I'm gonna put him up. He's still got his claws too. I always had declawed cats when I was a kid, and now people are like not with the declawing. So I told the animal shelter that I wouldn't have him declawed, and I'm not gonna do it, but he gets wild with these claws. I'll be right back. That's what's great about live streams, right? You never know what the hell's gonna happen in a live stream. And, I've got one view on this stream right now, so what the fuck, it don't matter. Uh, you wanna play some guitar? Let's see what else I have on here before we play guitar. Engineering. So, this is the big thing with me. This is my passion and what I love to do now is engineering my music. It's such a deep well to dive into, right? There's so many things with engineering, getting your mic set up right, and then when you talk about being a mixing engineer and those things, there's a lot involved in that process. And all I know to do is start watching YouTube videos. If you don't know how to engineer and mix, start watching YouTube videos and start making music. You just have to start recording and then get it sounding good. And there are no rules. No matter what you see with 10 tips or these are the things you must do and must not do, there's no rules. And a lot of times stepping out of the box of rules or not doing things conventionally is where the good sound is. So basically all you want to keep in mind is don't be clipping, because it'll sound like shit. Digital clipping sounds terrible, so don't clip digitally. But other than that, you have kind of free reign. You want to watch your LUFS, that's your loudness, perceived loudness, going to the streaming services. I've said on here before that they recommend -14, but nobody puts their music out at -14 unless they're doing Atmos. They stick to those guidelines of I think -18 for Atmos, but I'm usually up around -10 to -8, somewhere in that range for most of the song. Because if you have your music at -14, I promise you the music that comes on before yours and after yours is going to be louder, and yours is going to sound very unprofessional. So get your music loud. There's things to do to get your music loud with limiters, clippers, parallel compression. There's lots of ways to get your music very loud, where the perceived loudness is much louder than what you're actually seeing on the meter. Um, it just comes from doing it, figuring out these things. Um, Always use a limiter on the end of your mix, or most of the time, you don't always have to do anything. It might be a good thing not to do it, actually. It's one of those where you there's no rules. But for the most part, having a limiter on at the end of the mix is going to make sure that you don't go into the red and that you have plenty of loudness on tap. It adjusts, it kind of tweaks the headroom so things sound a lot more punchy and a lot more explosive when you put a limiter on. So I'm going to just put on these headphones. I'm going digital for the guitar. And I don't know, I'll just play a little bit because doing a stream and it's a music stream, and why not? Let's see. So this is the Gems 45 amp sim. I've been using real amps on the stream, but it's like I'm always having to mute, and this just gets the loudness right for the stream in a way that's easier. So for this one, I didn't take the time to tweak the amps. I also thought that my amps sounded really dry. I didn't have any delay or reverb on, and I wasn't getting any room sound, and it almost sounded direct. So I'm using this sound. So that's just the clone going into the Gems 45. Very easy chain. The Gems 45 is also great if you're using it for recording in the DAW, because you can go just use the preamp and avoid the speaker hours and use hours in your DAW, or external hours from Cab M or something, and it sounds great that way too. For a while I was using it that way and using the either the Tone King Imperial plugin just for the speakers, or I think I was using maybe the Soft Tube Silver Jubilee just for the speakers. No, it was the Pete Thorne PT100. You can just use the IRs from the speakers, and this Gems 45 going into that was great because he's got a lot of IRs on there. I mean, it's probably 100 at least, and the speaker is a lot of the same. Um, Maybe we'll start doing a thing where I put lead on some track. We could even do some drum track. If I did that though with drum tracks, I would make real drum tracks, not, doing a groove in the computer or something. I don't do the digital drums. Really, drums was my first instrument. I started playing snare drum in junior high, and then right up, like I started playing snare drum in the band, but I also at the same time started playing drum set, and taking lessons from a very cool teacher. I thought maybe I would try and reach out to him at some point and get him to do an interview, maybe if the channel grows a little bit, because he used to write for Modern Drummer magazine, and he's got books out. I actually learned drums playing, like, not learned at first, but later on, once I got a little better, my drum lessons were learning his book, and it was great. His name's Rick Mattingly, so he's great, man. And I feel really lucky to have been able to learn drums from him, because he's, everybody respects him in the drum community. He knows a lot of big drummers, and he wrote for Modern Drummer, and I was very lucky to be able to learn drums that way. Just put on some slapback. So for the slapback delay, I'm using a carbon copy. I've got some pedals up here right next to my computer that I use for mixing a lot. The guitars go through them as well, but when I want to break out of the box and just run through pedals, sometimes I'll go through my whole pedal board, which is down here. It's all my drive pedals, like I have a Tim pedal, Prince of Tone pedal, Analog Man. I've got an Analog Man Sunface as well, Germanium. I've got several fuzzes. I've got the Boss FZ1. I've got a big muff down there now. I have a Mythos Hephaestus. I have a Mark I tone bender that I love to use. It's a boutique thing that I got from a guy that makes them out in Arizona. They're great. But that's one that I have to keep unplugged because it'll run the battery down. So I only plug it in when I'm ready, for it. I've got a Rat. I have the XTS modded EQ pedal, the mid-range EQ. It's great. Like, if you're using real amps or using overdrive pedals and just want to give them a completely different character, like get more versatility out of your pedals, get that XTS modded Boss EQ GE7 EQ. It's all the mid-range frequencies, like from 400 to 4.2, I think, and it's great. There's lots of little ways to get different sounds with that. I've seen one thing where each slider, you'll put like the first slider up, second slider all the way down, back and forth all the way across the graphic EQ. And it's supposed to give you like a dobro sound or like a national guitar sound. I've got a CE2W on the board over there. I've got a vibe machine, drivable vibe machine. And there's a compressor, which is just MXR Dynacomp. And then up here, these pedals that I was talking about, I mixed with a lot. I have the Strymon Timeline, the Strymon Flint, and the MXR Carbon Copy up on the desk. So that's the pedals I use, and I'm pretty happy with those pedals. I'd like to get an Eventide H90 and maybe a Chroma console. Really now when I'm thinking about pedals, I'm on the waiting list for the King of Tone. I've been on it for a while. You know, I'd like to have that pedal. The Prince of Tone's really great. This is just the Warm Audio Centavo. So. So I'm gonna record drums here in just a few minutes. I'm trying to think of some things that are important to keep in mind when you're tracking drums. I like to get a I like to have a room sound that's good. So I have two small diaphragm condensers up right over here. I actually need to take the cover off. I keep all my mics covered usually just so dust doesn't get in them, even if they're not expensive mics. I keep the dust covers on them, especially with condensers and ribbons. You don't want dust getting in your capsules. I'm trying to make these mics last. So if we get the camera to follow me, maybe. I don't know if it's going to follow me. Let's see if it will. Hold on. If I do this, it'll start following me. So yeah. Up here, these are AKG P170s, very budget microphones, but they actually sound pretty great. I am going to get some different small diaphragm condensers just because I haven't really A-B'd them with anything, and I might be missing something really great with, you know, some other small diaphragm condenser mics. But I like these. I may even start using a mic more like this or a pair of mics like this on room mics, from room mics, and start using those on the tom-toms, because I'm growing my mic locker all the time, and I really want some large diaphragm condensers for rooms, but I like the small diaphragms as well. There's a ribbon mic up there. That's the one we were putting up yesterday on the live stream, and this large diaphragm condenser is a United Twin 87. It's a great U87 clone. It's actually got two modes, like a vintage U87 mode and a modern, and it sounds killer, man. It's like, it does the U87 thing for sure. Like, I didn't even know what that thing was, and then when I got this microphone and I heard how it sounded, I was like, oh, I know that sound. That's the sound I've heard on a lot of records. So it's very apparent to me that that mic does the thing, and I've seen nothing but good reviews about it. You know, I'd like to possibly get another one. They do have a new United Twin 48, which is both a U47 and a 48 in one microphone, and I'd like to get that one. It's quite a bit more. I think these are around $600 or $700. You just get a styrofoam box. They save some money on the cost of like not putting it in a nice wood box and things like that as well. The United Twin 48 I think is around $1,500. So you can get about two of these for that. So this is a great mic. The thing that I wish was different about it was the head basket. It just looks a little funny to me. I like how the U87s look, or the way the, you know, the 87s look, or the way the 47s or 67s. I like that look. And this isn't really like any of them. It's like a real basket, perfectly round. There's no shape to it, but it sounds great, and that's all that matters in the end. You know, I'm a visual person. I think we all are, especially when you're making videos and things like that. Aesthetics play a big role in the look, and with YouTube, going back to, you know, music and things we do to wear all the hats. YouTube is a very visual platform, so you can have a not great video and put a great title and great thumbnail, and it might do great. So people are visual creatures. Keep that in mind too. You know, when you're making your music, try and get the artwork right. Down here, there's a Shure Beta 52 on the kick drum, and there is a Audix i5. It's the dick mic, you know, crotch mic, going between the two toms, right over the snare, right between the snare and the kick. You know, so it's picking up a little bit of the batter side of the kick drum, the snare drum, top head, and I like that. It's good to compress that microphone. It gets a real explosive sound. You know, if you compress that heavily, it'll give you a lot of crunch, and then you just blend that back in. A lot of people even use like the Devil Lock plugin, or like Shure Level Lock, the actual hardware. I've had trouble getting that to work. It's very explosive, and it does the thing, and you have to use the mix knob to get it where you want it, but it still seems overpowering to me a lot of times, and there's something about the character that I just haven't got it where I want it yet. I always try it on the mixes, and usually I end up going with like a DBX 160 or a different parallel compression instead of using that Devil Lock. But try the Devil Lock trick. It's, you know, a thing people do a lot to get that explosive drum sound and those big toms, and, you know, Decapitator's great. There's lots of ways to get your drums sounding huge, and doing things in parallel, which means either putting things on aux where you're sending out a certain amount of the signal to that track. So it's like a wet dry thing. It's not completely, you know, the whole signal's not completely being processed. It's great, and you can also do it with the mix knob. I like to do it with the aux sends on most things, so I'm just sending out however many dBs of the signal I want to that processing, and then I bring it back in. Parallel compression will really help you get your loudness right, because you can track drums and crank up, you know, push up the faders way up to like -2 or something, and they still not sound loud enough, and it's because you need some parallel processing going on. And in my opinion, that gets me there. The quickest way is to do some parallel stuff. Usually my parallel chain, and then once you have a parallel chain set up, my parallel chain is usually a DBX 160 a lot of times, plug-in, and an EQ, and sometimes a decapitator with that as well. So you can get a lot of saturation. But once you have that aux track set up for parallel drum duties, you know, like compressing your snare drum or sending the whole kit to it, and mixing that back in. Once you have that set up, if you need a little more punch out of anything, like some other percussion, just send it to that track. You're not really looking for, you know, a certain specific thing with the parallel, because it's getting blended back in, so you can send a lot of different tracks to it. If you've got one guitar that you love how you've got it mixed and it sounds just right, it's just a little too low, send a little bit of it to that parallel track, and it'll, you know, get your level up there. You just always want to check everything when you're doing things like that, but, you know, you can send a lot of things out on a parallel aux track and have it work, and just setting it up for one sound. So I'm getting ready to track these drums on this song. You want to hear a little bit more of this song before we roll out? It's great, man. I love it. It almost has I'm not gonna be able to get the Danny Carey Tool drums, but I think this song has a very kind of Tool sound to it, and I wasn't really shooting for that. It's just how it ended up. I'm gonna skip ahead to the, because we already heard the beginning. Let's listen to more like the middle and the end of the song. Alright, before we roll out, I'm going to leave you with some other music, some old music, older music that's been out for a little while now. And I want to say again, like, subscribe, leave a comment, listen to a little bit of this song, see if you like what I do. I might even put the video up actually. And come back, you know, if you like what I do, if you like this music, if you like the stream, like hanging out, chat with me. Put something in the comments. Say hi. Say, what's up, dude? Say whatever you want to say. And we'll chat. I'll get you involved in the stream. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the like button. I'm doing this, man. I'm in this. I'm gonna be doing this. I've got to start a new YouTube video too, because I've been so into the streaming the past 2 weeks that I haven't really started production on a new video. I've got some ideas though that I'm ready to make one. So we're going to do that and get the regular videos back out. But I'm going to try and stream at least twice a week, maybe 3 times a week, just to, you know, try and get some community going here. Because I make music, and I know a lot of you all make music and love music. Even if you don't make music, if you love music, that's what it's about for real, you know. We love music, and so we make it, or we listen to it, or we just, it means a lot in our lives, and that's why I do this. So let's pick a song out. Here we go. Let's see. How about this one? Let's see. Have a good day, you all.